It is a joy to be here again this year. We are not all here because there are at least 6 pastors in 6 other countries right now on global mission trips. I'm just amazed that October, that used to be the ideal time to do things like this, has become so busy. But I think one of the best things that we can be busy about is sharing the gospel and making disciples globally as well as locally. I was encouraged by our attendance and participation this afternoon and love this next generation of leaders as they're beginning to step into key roles in the PSBA. I think we had about 45 that actually showed up this afternoon, so I'm going to call Jeff Orge and tell him that he's not very much more popular than our younger pastors. If you'll turn in your book of reports to page number 3, you'll find my executive director's report. I will not be reading the report to you, but will simply speak to it. I'm really excited to realize that in January of this coming year will be my 20th anniversary as your executive director. And as I have reflected on the last several years, I think one of the great joys and one of the better moves for at least me personally, I hope for the PSBA, was coming back full-time to the PSBA. That has led to some of the things that have happened, including further developing our identity as a network or association of pastors and churches that are helping and serving one another as we see increasing collaboration in interchurch missional ministry in particular, and with a special emphasis on contextual ministry. I'm also really excited about, as I put in the last email I sent to you, sort of the fact that the PSBA has quietly restarted. And with the leadership and the blessing of the admin team, we are seeing new things happening with our impact groups and our impact leaders that we'll be praying for here in just a few minutes. It's an exciting time as a sort of those of us who have been around for a while are not only blessing, but we're freeing and empowering this next generation of leaders. And for me, this is very, very exciting. Under the heading of the strategy, as we have discussed and reported, we believe that the first major implementation of the strategy that we have developed the last couple of years has to do with the impact groups that will be a byproduct of the impact leaders that we have added. We have already started with the Carlos Rodriguez, Andrew Fouché, and Daniel Engelhardt, and we anticipate a 4th impact leader in the early 2024, and then an additional 2 in July of 2024 for a total of 6 impact leaders. Since 2018, we have shifted towards a greater local focus. We are fully engaged and fully supportive of all levels and areas of our denominational life. We will continue to be that. But as we have kind of reshifted with our 2018 strategy and now our current 2023 strategy, there is a greater emphasis on Puget Sound contextual ministry. In the 1980s and 90s, it seemed like churches in America were all focused on leadership with a secondary emphasis on worship as the ultimate priority. And then somewhere around the early 2000s, there was a national interchurch, intertribal, or denominational shift towards being on mission and missional ministry of making Christ known. And then it appears that sometime around 2010, there was another major paradigm shift in America towards discipleship. And what we hope the impact leaders will be catalytic for, what we hope will be an outcome of the impact groups themselves, is that we in the PSBA will learn how to balance all of these things. Instead of saying one thing is the thing to do this year and something else is the thing to do next year, we believe that we have identified what we need to do concurrently all the time towards health and for fruit. And so we believe that this is a new model for the association. In talking with other associational leaders at recent events, they're wanting to learn from us. Puget Sound has always been sort of a lab where others across the nation, particularly in church planting, learn from us. And then they take what they learn from us and contextualize it there. That seems to be happening here. One of the things that has come to me, did not look this up, did not seek this out, did not anticipate this, is that associational leaders and from multiple states have been reaching out to me and saying that as associations and talking with their pastors, that they would like to explore a paradigm shift, partnering with the PSBA in all of their church planting and starting with strengthening existing churches. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm in communication with multiple associational leaders to say, what do you mean and what will that be looking like? There seems to be a trust in the PSBA that has been earned over the decades. And somehow, some way, God has continued to give us favor. And I think that we can anticipate a new wave and a new level of partnerships for church planting as well as for our existing churches. So I'm very, very excited about that. Under the SBC concerns, we've had another tough year as Christians in America. Someone shared with me that they counted up 10 major prominent ministry leaders who failed in the past year. I'm not sure what to do with all that. This is not new. But I do think that somehow media-based permission has been granted and that more guys are doing more things that are apart from Scripture. And so it's a difficult time for our denomination, but I just would remind you that this is not new. Ever since I have been a Southern Baptist since the 1970s, we've had all kinds of issues. But there is one thing that I think is very different, and that is how we are addressing issues through social media. And I hope that you'll take it in a spirit of love and help and brotherhood, what I write about at the end of page 3 and the top of page 4, that we really need to learn how to stop writing about things and instead to go see people that we have concerns or questions about. As I have with pastors that have had various kinds of struggles and difficulties, in part it has been pastors who have been blogging and writing and sometimes ranting and raving, and then they're surprised when their church members do that against them and their leadership. And so I just think it would be wise if we would just realize that sometimes our people follow our example. I think that, frankly, some of the challenges in our denomination is that denominational people have followed the examples of senior denominational people. And I don't want to go too much further than that. On the top of page 4, there is a major paradigm shift. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that there's a paradigm shift, that things that used to be asked and answered and settled at the local church level and in local associations are now being addressed and considered at the national level. And so let's continue to pray for and to support our denomination at all levels. And know that for those who are struggling with the national denomination, we, like our own Northwest Baptist Convention, you are welcome to participate locally here with us, even if you do not want to ascribe to some of the other boards and other actions in the denomination. Under the financial report, you have those there, and in your book of reports and the numbers that are there. Basically to say that we are in good shape. The one major number under budget 2023 financial report, July through August, you'll see the sinking fund budget reserve show as $290,000. That will go back up to $450,000 once we make some transfers at Guidestone. We cannot report to you things that we have not yet transferred to balance expenses that have gone out. The following paragraph, the 2024 budget was emailed to you a week ago. We have had no questions or comments about it. It was unanimously developed and approved by the budget work group and by the Executive Board Council. That budget is on pages 11 and 12. It does include the impact leaders. It does include a 2% cost of living increase for existing PSBA staff. Adjustments have been made in the budget in keeping with programming, insurance, and different things that have come up. So the budget includes 2 full-time staff and 8 part-time positions. Onto the church listing, and I'm going to camp here for just a little bit. We went down from 165 churches in 2022 to 158 churches this year, as reported in the church listing on pages 14 through 17. We had 12 churches that closed this year. 1 became independent, and 6 new churches were planted. Bellevue Bible Church, Bread of Life International Fellowship, Veritas Church, New Beginnings Fellowship, and Marysville Christian Fellowship, plus Yeshuan Korean Baptist Church. And so we are encouraged that even in these lean and challenging times, that God is still moving in our church planting efforts in collaboration with the North American Mission Board, as well as our Northwest Baptist Convention. I was excited and appreciate Jamal being here tonight. He had planted a church that did not continue, and he's been waiting on God. He connected with Jonathan Lee at Connections Church, and in the coming weeks he'll be starting a new group, Alpha and Omega Fellowship, that will be in the Farsi language to reach Afghans and Persians. In summary, the theme of the day of listening, learning, and leading with focus is an outgrowth of some things that we have been doing. It's not that here's something we're trying to introduce, but there's something that we are already doing, and we're really excited about this culture that has been generated and is developing in the PSBA. We are concerned about our minority culture or ethnic churches. We have lost connection in the pandemic with them, and as we add additional impact leaders, we will be adding minority culture or non-Anglo ethnic impact leaders to help us reconnect and to reach into some of our particular groups. You know about the theft and the fire that we've had with block party trailers and the office building. That all is in process, although Tim tells me that we have a pending transfer from the insurance company to pay for the fire, and so we are encouraged about that. In 2025, January through the first half of the year 2025, not this coming 2024, I will be taking my first ever sabbatical. And it's going to be a reading, writing, research kind of a sabbatical, and you can read about that, in which I hope to suggest lessons learned from SBC patterns beginning in the 1980s to show the outcomes in part by how things have been done, that this would show the impact on the PSBA. As I think in terms of in the next few years, I hope that we have identified my successor and be able to work with him a year before there is a handoff. We want to give them almost a multi-generational and a strategic report of what is the trajectory that we are on the basis of the trajectory that we have been on in the past. I've had some surgical experiences this year, and everything looks great, and except my nose is still swollen, but everything is good with me. Patty continues to have some challenges. It's been a really, really tough year for her, and as I think many of you know, recently has some new lumps and bumps that are suspicious and abnormal, and tomorrow she has a specialist ENT appointment. Not quite sure if we're going to talk about the biopsies or if she's actually having the biopsies tomorrow, but just be aware of her and continue to pray for her in the future as you have in the past. Our family's doing well. Tim's continuing to enjoy and even thrive as the PSBA office manager. Our son Matt and his family are doing well in Rhode Island. He is about ready to finish up at what they call the schoolhouse, where he does training of chaplain officers, and he'll become the new deputy chaplain. He's slated to become the deputy chaplain for the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is the new large carrier, so he's pretty excited about that. Before I close, I'd like to just give you a general report on our churches. This is not detailed, which means Tim has not yet, crossed the T's and dot the I's. I just did a quick study, and I looked at the last 10 years. And in the past 10 years, we have had 109 churches that have closed, and we have planted 75 new churches. As I look at the numbers that are before me, it's sometimes a little difficult. Sometimes pastors don't like to say that they closed. They like to say that they merged. And so it's a little interesting how to do all that. We respect the leadership of our churches even as they are closing. But it just shows the importance of us starting new groups in our existing churches and the importance of us continuing to be on mission by planting new churches and keeping that as a key strategy and purpose of the PSBA being in existence. So thank you for the joy and the privilege. Thank you for calling me 20 years ago. Thank you for letting me stick around. And I just pray that, as the late Buddy Ellis would say, that the best is still yet to be.